Greetings, fellow bass players, human and non-human alike. In this video, as promised, we're going to take our 2-octave major scale framework that we learned in the last lesson and apply it to some music. So if you haven't already watched the last video, click on this link and do that, because we're going to be using it very directly to come up with some ideas for fills on the bass line we're going to play today. So just for very brief review, this 2-octave scale framework is one of the primary subjects of my new ebook, Electric Bass Scales and Arpeggios, which you can get through my website, and I'll talk more about that later because I'm just too excited to not talk about it. Basically what we're doing, we're starting on the E string, we're ending on the G string, we're playing in 3-note chunks, and we can do our one big shift on any of the 4 strings and keep the same basic idea going wherever we decide to do that shift. And what that gets us over time after practice is the ability to move pretty fluidly through a 2-octave range without having to really think about the scale as much. Your fingers just kind of naturally find the notes of the scale, and you can focus on more musical matters than like, oh my god, where are the notes, where are the notes, where are the notes? So this is one of the best ways I've found to get students moving freely around the neck more. So that's what we focused on in the last lesson. Today, we're going to dig more into actually playing music and trying to use what we've got from however much practice you've done so far on the 2-octave scale framework and see some of the possibilities that lie in store for you. So to follow along today, as always, you will want to download the PDF. It is free. You just click there and you can go look at it. And we've got sheet music and tablature for you. And so let me just demonstrate what's going on today. We've got a little chillax backing track. We've just got a C major 7 chord on the keyboard instrument and a funky 4/4 groove on the drums. And we're going to be playing fill, 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 fill. Okay, so it's just kind of a husk of a bass line. Okay, it's just an excuse for us to practice doing some fills in a wider range. Okay, so first let's learn this bass line together. We're just playing, it's basically a little C major pentatonic, groovy little dealy. Starting index finger on a C on the E string. Then I'm doing a little pinky slide into that A there on the 12th fret of the A string. Same thing going into the second bar. So C, C, A, C, back to C, slide into E. So I'm not stretching very much. When we were doing the scales, I'm stretching a lot more because I need to play more notes. In this case, since it's kind of a simple pentatonic line, I'm doing more slidey stuff and less stretchy stuff. And also that's because we're not actually playing the scale, so I'm not so worried about maintaining the 3-note chunks and doing the one shift. This is more like just moving freely through this 2-octave area now that I've done the systematic, consistently fingered practice. Okay, so index, pinky, index, index, pinky, index, pinky. So I'm really just doing like a 2-finger approach through there for relaxation in the left hand. And then in the first line, I've just got slashes there for whatever fill you want to put. And then below I've written a couple sample fills that we'll go through for fun, so you can see a couple ideas that I came up with using this 2-octave framework. But actually what I'd like you to do is play this groove with me and just try coming up with your own fills using a C major scale. See if you can incorporate some movement through that 2-octave range. Okay, so here's the groove. 3, 4, 1. Fill on C major. Fill, fill, bass line. Fill, fill. Fill, fill. Okay, so that could be feeling a variety of ways for you. If you haven't practiced the 2-octave scale framework that much, which is possible since I just taught it to you last week, you might still be getting kind of lost if you try to move outside of this little area. So, work with that and spend more time with the scale itself. And also you can kind of do a variety of different difficulty levels with what you try to accomplish with your fills. You could do less notes in the fill. You could make sure you don't do too much shifting that's too ambitious that makes you get lost. So kind of modulate the difficulty however you need to. All right, so let's see. Just for fun, let's learn those sample fills together, and then maybe I'll have you do a little bit more on your own. So sample fill number 1. Okay, so pinky on the 14th fret of the G, ring on the 14th fret of the D, index on the 12th, pinky on the 14th. That's your first group of 16th notes. This is the 4th bar of the 2nd line where it says fill. Then we have another 4 16th notes. The first one has a grace note attached to it, which means start on the 14th fret on an E, and then quickly slide right down to the 12th fret. So it's really just a little flavor at the beginning of the note rather than an additional note. So it's grace note from 14, slide down to 12, 10th fret, 12th fret, 10th fret on the A string. So you could just play it simpler and play it like this, okay? Or you can put the grace note in there. So in context, that sounds like this. Here's the fill. Do it one more time. All right, now join me. Second bar, here's the fill. Fill again. One more time. All right, I lied. One more time after this. Cool. So again, the reason this relates to our 2-octave scale framework is that by practicing the scales, we kind of prime ourselves to be able to move around more freely in the 2-octave area, even though in the scale we're very strictly sticking to a low position and a high position, doing one big shift, whereas musically here we're kind of wiggling around in the middle of those positions. So it's not exactly like the scale. You could do it more exactly like the scale, but for me to come up with musical fills, I kind of had to break from the scale patterns a little bit more. Let's learn sample fill number 2. So this is the bottom line of sheet music and tab, and the fill is in the last bar. And again, it's just 2 beats of 16th notes. So pinky on the 17th fret of the G, ring finger on the 17th fret of the D, pull off to the 15th fret on your index finger, ring finger on the 17th fret of the A string, index on the 14th of the D, middle on the 15th of the A, pinky on the 17th of the E, middle on the 15th, and then you got a quick shift down to your low C to keep the groove going, okay? You might get a little slide coming up to that C since you're all the way down here, which is all good because slides are always appropriate in my book. Okay, let me demonstrate that for you a couple times. Here's the fill. Now join me. Bassline. Here comes the fill. Here it comes again. So these sample fills I wrote are a little bit gnarly, but this 2-octave scale thing is not a beginner concept. You know, this is really leveling up your ability to move around the neck which is something that, I couldn't do very well probably for the first 2 or 3 or so years of playing bass. So it really takes time and practice to be able to do this fluidly. My goal in this video is to give you a little flavor of some of the cool stuff you can do by expanding your reach on the bass, because you got all these notes to choose from. I mean, yeah, it's only 4 strings and 20 to 24 frets, but that's still a lot of possibilities versus only being able to play notes in this little area, which can be really limiting on your creativity when you're coming up with fills. And soloing too is another thing I won't really get into today because it's a long discussion, but just being able to being able to move around, even just within a 2-octave area, which is still just another box, it's a lot more freeing than the 1-octave box. So hopefully this has been enlightening in some way. Again, this is all written out in mega detail in my new book, Electric Bass Scales and Arpeggios, which is available at joshfossgreen.com/books. And I'm really pumped about it because it covers the 2-octave scales: major, minor, Dorian, Mixolydian, Lydian, Locrian, Phrygian. In all 12 keys, it covers arpeggios. It covers scales and arpeggios in 1 octave as well as the 2 octaves. Talks about finding notes on the neck and actually knowing the names of all the notes on your bass, which is really good to know. There's some bonus stuff on chords, improv, ear training. It's over 160 pages and they are packed full of cool stuff. I've been working on it for a long time. I'm really excited to release it to you, so please check that out at joshfossgreen.com/books. I'll see you next time and we'll keep exploring these 2-octave scales, this time in a minor key. See you then.